Okay. Oh, free trials and free groups. This was interesting. Who had this one? So you? Okay. So, and I feel like this also may feed into your 7-day trial stuff. So these feel like somewhat related. But yeah, let's talk about it. So, what was your?
Yeah, we have the free group, and we've been using mainly the free group to do calls. But now we want to go into free trials.
Okay.
And I guess I'm just curious what you think about that. Like, should we have a free group and do free trials as well, or do we mainly promote the free trials and
Yeah,
kind of what you predict? Yeah.
totally. So, based on, do we have any other math besides because I think you sent me trial conversion numbers.
Yeah, it's between like 25 and 45%.
Yeah. And so this is me shooting from the hip. So this is broad numbers, but that's okay because everyone's going to be a little bit different anyways. But basically, like if you look at like an industry average change, it's like if you go from a price point to a free trial, you're going to have usually like a 2 or 3x increase in conversion rates on the page. Now everyone's like, oh, then we should do free trials. The downside is that you then lose 2 to 3x. You convert 1/3 of those people or a quarter of those people. If 25% it's a quarter, if 25% it's a little bit more, a little less than 1 out of 2 on the back end. So it's like you double or triple the front end, but then you convert 1/3 as many. And so it's like, well, then what's the point of having a free trial? In my opinion, the piece where free trials matter is that you might get 5 times the clicks on the thing that's driving towards whatever basically your call to action will convert a higher percentage. So your earnings per click will remain the same. So if I get 100 clicks to the page and I have paid group, then I will have, 2% of people who buy my thing. And then that's it. They bought, it's done. But if I have 6% who take a free trial and then 1 out of 3 stays, then I have 2% who stay. So I net out the same exact thing. Now my cash is a little delayed, so there's a cost there. But if I say, hey, come join my group for $99, it would probably not get nearly as many clicks as it, hey, why don't you try my group for free for 14 days? And so that's the reason Schools has a free trial, is because we get more clicks from the ads than if we were to just say straight 99.
The other thing you have to factor in is churn. I think the churn's down for people that came in on a trial. Well, imagine it. When you buy, that is your trial.
Yeah.
First
month is
your
your trial.
trial cancel is your churn, right? But with the churn, with the trial, you never pay. I don't think that should be the reason to do a trial, by the way. There's people with 5% churn that don't do free trials. But you've got to factor in the attractiveness of the offer that will increase the volume of traffic to the page. But from just looking at the two mechanisms, though, I've seen about page traffic tends to go up by like 3 times. I mean, the about page conversion rate goes up 3 times, but the trial conversion rate seems to be on average around 33-ish%. So it's the same. But if you could get more people there and if they stayed longer, it might be worth it. But the other variable is, does it ruin your community having so many people just flow through like that?
Harut had the exact numbers that you, I think, did on the Q&A calls. Like, out of 104 people convert, they had 12. It was exactly the same, did a video on it. I did free trial, tried it. The first guy that joined was a competitor. And I was like, I turned it off straight away. I was like, that's in, I'm in and out. Because it was, yeah. I was like, I'll try it.
It's scientific method right there.
Yeah, it literally said like reduce churn on Skool. I was like, far out. He's like, why'd you kick me out of the group? I'm like, you're literally running the same offer.
Run a free trial, would you still run traffic to free community first and then to free trial? Do you think that would convert more?
Again, these are Excel sheet problems. What percentage of free group go to the paid? What percentage of people start a free trial? And like, these are just straight dollars and cents. So you can just look at the difference.
What would you do to convert more people from a free trial?
From free trial?
Yeah.
Well, activation sequences are helpful. So that would be, when I say activation, it's really just any communication you have with the person on a consistent basis. So that can be via DM, it could be via, it's basically via reach out. And the way that I have, because we'll probably roll out one for Skool soon as well. The way that I designed the one that I think we'll be rolling out is looking at all the FAQs for reasons people cancel and basically making that the sequence. So it's like, hey, if you're worried about this, we've got a whole article and piece on that. This is obviously 1-to-many at scale. Now, if you have smaller numbers, you can do it more individualized. But I just thought about it like, what is every reason someone cancels or chooses not to continue? Let's just make that every one of the pieces of communication that we have prior to them having their conversion point.
You think having a call like around like day 4, 5, 6?
Sure.
Yeah.
100%.
I would just find someone that's got a high conversion rate at a decent scale and see what they're doing. I think AI Jack's dialed in a lot of his metrics. His
Is
churns.
he trial now? Is he doing free trial?
He
now?
tried trial. He trialed it. No, he tried it for a while and then he turned it off and he's waiting for the metrics to come through. But so far, the trial conversion rate keeps going up because of those declines that sit there. They'll eventually, like 20% of them will probably convert. So the conversion rate keeps going up. And last time he looked at it, it was 33%, but I think it's going up more. And then he's going to look at whether it made sense or not overall and then decide what he should do. But for a good 2-3 weeks, he was running the trial. Evelyn did the same thing. I know some groups swear by it because if they were having problems converting people in the first place, it's perfect for them and they will always use it. But for some people like AI Jack and Evelyn, they didn't have a problem getting people in. So now they're just trying to figure out, does it make things better or worse? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I think they're the two to look at, I think. Like, because they're at a decent volume and they've tried both and they run ads. So they're like, oh, I don't know if AI Jack runs ads. But I would talk to them.
So my conversion rate is terrible.
What is it?
0.4% or something.
0.4?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is that screaming?
Wait, what's the price?
$99. $120 now.
$120.
Do you drive from organic?
Both organic and ads. I just started doing mostly organic. I just started doing ads 30 days ago.
I'm only going to throw this out there because you're in like the men's grooming. So I think it'll really depend on what your content is. So like if your content has a lot of like Barbary, fades and you know that stuff better than I do, but like cool haircuts, things like that, I'll bet you have a lot of people who aren't barbers who just like that stuff. And then when they click over, they're like, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be. So it might be like the traffic that's getting sent there, it might be mismatched. It might be fine. If you're able to dial in like what's the conversion of people who are barbers who convert, you might have really good conversion.
Wait, you're at 129 max. What's yours?
150. We just increased it to 150.
What's the conversion?
It's pretty low. I think it's 1.5 maybe.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay.
But
so that's low. I would. What's the harm in trying it?
I think it's just like reducing the friction thing. That's why we have the free group. So just trying to give some value for free first. Yeah.
You don't have much to lose when it's like that. Yeah.
I just started a free group, so maybe I can try leading with free group and then trying the free.
This one's so much easier. I'd try it first.
Because you just changed the button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's you could just click once. Yeah.
So much more chill.
There's an unspeakable amount of clicks on the other one.
Yeah. At least 3 times.
Endless.
We have about 3% for same price point, and what increased a lot is just the webinars. Because if we drive organic traffic directly to this, is like 0.89, but just after the webinars, it's all time stabilized around 3%.
Okay, so this will be the interesting question though. So when you do a webinar, walk me through the process of someone going to the webinar.
TikTok.
So TikTok ads?
No, organic TikTok or TikTok Live. Webinar registration page just with field, which actually we A/B test. Having a full page with all information or just the form. Just the form perform better. And directly after email, webinar, and at the end, call to action.
So the way to look at it would be all the clicks that you're driving to the webinar, you have a drop off in conversion there, then you have a drop off at show up rate, then you have a drop off to offer seeing, and then you're equating this traffic to the conversion of the page when it should be apples to apples. if I spent this, if I put all these clicks straight to and I was getting 0.8, are you losing, like you would have to keep 30% of all traffic from click to opt-in to show to offer. You'd have to only lose 70% of traffic with like 4 different points there. And I would find that unlikely. I would just do the math. I'm just saying, like, look at the math first, and then you might find out, you might have a hidden nugget that's just sitting there.
Sorry. Go ahead. And I was going to say what you could do, because we do the same to a webinar, but what we did was we opted into a free Facebook group, can nurture them, and then we allow the people in our community to go ahead and refer those members in that free Facebook group. And oftentimes, by the time we run the webinar, they're actually already in Skool.
So I tested that. Like I had like a 7-day window where I just did webinars every single day, and my conversion rate was like 3%, 4%. It jumped up immensely, but the volume obviously was way lower. My concern with turning on the free trial as an alternative to that is that, am I going to bring in a whole bunch of people?
How many people are signing up a day right now?
How many what?
How many signups a day are you getting now?
Now 3 to 5.
Oh, then I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think we get at least 3 to 5 signups a day.
When we were doing the webinars, we did like 650 in 30 days, and it got overwhelming with so many new people.
Well, you did the webinar, so I'm like, because that's also a shot all at once. It's like if you had a free trial and maybe, let's say it jumps to 15 a day, I think that's going to be way more manageable than 600 all at once. You know what I mean? So I still think it's probably like 1-click test. It's probably worth testing, because you can literally turn it off after you do the scientific method of one person joining too, right? Okay, cool. That was free trial versus free groups. Did that help, Max, on this one?
Yes,
Cool.
thank you.
Yep. All right. Is that Daniel just waving around, making noise? Let's see. Oh, I think it's very important. Let's do sales stuff. You guys want to do sales stuff? Okay. So, okay, what are the sales issues? Who's with sales? I think it's over here. Yeah.
So it's just basically like follow up with people. It's pretty easy to sell on a sales call, but then afterwards is like, does that person really want it? Or am I influencing them through the follow up to then make somebody that wasn't naturally going to do it or be about that life to do something?
What problem are you solving?
Sorry?
What problem are you trying to solve?
Is it worth it to sell people? Because obviously...
Is it worth it to sell people?
Yeah.
So I'll take Kevin's objective for the day, which was if the goal is to make more money, then selling people will make you more money than not selling people.
Thank you. But the thing is, like...
I'll be here all day.
I do ads for people, but then they have to call their leads. But then they don't call their leads.
I think what he's asking, is there money after the webinar? Is it worth following up with people? Are they going to buy? That's what he's really asking. So those are the ones with the more objections. Those are the ones that you might need to, they're not maybe able to take, advantage of your current offer. All right. I don't know what your price point is, but there's a completely different caliber of client there. And so, yes, they do need a follow-up. And
Daniel's mom, I'm a fan. Yes.
What?
I'm a fan of yours. No, I am. So yes. Okay. So if that's the question, yes, follow up with your leads. So I've actually updated my whole thesis around conversion a lot. So it's probably been a big change for me. Like if you look at my stuff, 13 years ago compared to 5 years ago towards this year, like this year I've probably updated it in kind of 2 material ways. So number one is I used to think about things as like logical and emotional buyers. Have you guys heard of that? Like people talking about this? I don't think that's true. I think that there is a certain amount of information that is required for someone to make a decision, and some people require less information and some people require more. And the reason that brands convert a way bigger percentage of the audience is because the vast majority of people don't make decisions that way. Now, we poo-poo them because everyone here is disproportionately, we're entrepreneurs, we take more risk, and so we're willing to basically make decisions with less information. But the vast majority of the world doesn't work that way. And so most people, and the reason the info space continues to resell these same people over and over and over again is because they don't know how to sell higher information threshold buyers. And so in thinking about that, I have shifted a lot. Obviously, the reason that we put all the content out and things like that is that there are many very rational people that rationally are like, I just watched a 45-minute video from you. Why am I going to immediately spend $10,000? This is ridiculous. People do, but more people don't. And there's way more money in the don't. And this is my belief, I think that they're better buyers.
Really? So
Yes.
it's not a churn issue because that's the back end problem
No,
with
it's
it.
just a history of decision making. They've been punished in the past for making fast decisions, and so then they use that algorithm for making decisions in the future. I think that your experience with the first few things that you consumed information-wise probably has such a massive difference. This is actually kind of freaky. The amount of guys that I know who like ended up, staying in real estate forever, or like that's like their first deal, the first thing, like they actually got a little lucky. The first guy that consumed information from was actually a pretty good guy. And then they're like, oh, learning is good. Paying money for stuff is good, like and for education. But if you don't do that, and this is why I put all the stuff that I do out there, is like, hopefully I can get people better first experiences so that they're like, oh, maybe learning stuff on how to make money is a good idea. And so, yes, I think that following up with leads makes sense. The question is going to be, is it worth the return, which is a math question, not an emotional question. How much does it cost me to follow up? What's my return on that? Is it worth doing that versus any other use of the same resources?
So essentially, they could have had bad experiences
Oh,
in
that's
the
so much
past.
better. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
That's just what I was saying. They may have had bad experiences in the past, so they aren't so quick to automatically jump into it. So then you want to continue to talk to them if you find value within the success that you believe they could have.
Yeah, and I think a lot more of the follow-up is actually the whatever the opposite of follow-up is, the nurture, the warm-up.
Yeah, like YouTube.
Yeah, so I think people spend too much, not too much time, but it's 80-20 the other way. People want to keep optimizing on the back, but I think there's way more value in optimizing on the front. Yeah, foreplay, there you go.
Your like arc of like
For the perma pump.
Let's go.
You got to do foreplay for the perma pump.
Don't follow up this much.
your arc of like how to get client testimonials from one of the other ones, we've implemented that into like sales processes for like service-based business owners, and it's literally insane. Like all of their follow-ups for like $80,000 patios that completely just goes to them. They'll just drop like 2 clients like of that arc, same situation. And like I have a guy in Florida who the 3 people he sent it to that were completely cold leads, like $200,000 just like that, like over.
You think you should have done that though?
Yeah.
The follow-up?
Yeah. That,
Okay, yeah.
So now we're putting it like into the front end, so like 2 hours before they go sign the check. So I think that's something that could probably help. Like me, I should probably be doing that, and I'm not doing that.
Yeah, take from the back, put it in the front, because it required the same information for them to make the decision. We just missed it. And so if you think about so I actually really hate the difference between marketing and sales. Like we segment them because the actual activities are different, but the function of those activities remains the same, which is you need to give someone enough information to make a decision. And so the marketing, when done, I would say like quickly and on very short time horizons, it's very direct response, get someone to take action. And then basically you get on the call and you're like, I have to plug all these information holes to get you to decide. But if you can cover more of that before the call, that's when you get your little tip-ins. And that's why organic traffic converts higher. But it's not that those people are different. They've just already received more information prior to the call. And it's just way easier to give way more people information here than it is here.
Yeah. Wasn't that great for Amazon whole pieces of just put a ton of visual marketing and over market at this point?
Yeah, I mean, that's 10x, bro. But no, but that's, yeah, I mean, he's, Grant has this thing that I heard him say that I really liked, which was, I like the spirit behind it, not the actuality of it, which was, he said, CRO is a scam. He said, conversion rate optimization is a scam. Obviously, it's not a scam. Please split test your shit. But the point of what he was saying is that like, you can only get to 100%, but you can 100x your traffic. And so it's like, it's an incremental return. Whereas the other, like, if you look at, okay, if you're not going to CRO your way to 100xing the business, but you can increase traffic by 100% if you made the right call. So it's like, well, then put more of the effort into the big order of magnitude things. That was, I think, the spirit behind what he was saying. But then some people hear that, they're like, we should never split tests. It's like, no, you should split tests, like, for sure. But yeah, that was just sales follow-up. Okay, so let's talk about sales training. Good with that? Yeah, should come.
I have a question, Alex. The other day I do a podcast, and I give the information about my courses, and I do a webinar, and I for those people I sold like 45,000 in one call. But then I get excited, and I do ads in
You do what?
Ads.
Ads. Oh, ads. Yeah. Okay, got it.
And in the first webinar, there's been like 125 people. In the other one, there is like 350 people.
Okay.
But I just sold 10.
Uh-huh.
So what do you think happened there? Why?
So the first one you did was you did your webinar on someone else's podcast.
No, I went to a podcast and I talk about my life, about everything. You know what I'm saying? And then I
sent them to
the phone.
Okay.
And I do great with them, but in the other side, I have more people, but I do less sell. So what do you think is?
This is good. So think about what I just went over in terms of the information to make a decision. So these people spent an hour, however long you had on the podcast with you. They learned all about you and all these other things. And then you sent them to a webinar, and then you went through a webinar and then sold them. The other people skipped all of this and then went straight to the webinar to sell. And so the question is, or rather, that would give me the conclusion that there are some variables that you cover in that podcast that are relevant to people who want to buy. It's if you think about conversion, like I just think of it as like a cheese grater. Like there's these little holes that I just have to fill to get the highest percentage of people to buy. Like my hypothetical extreme is that there is a sales process that could get 100% of people to buy. The question is whether it's worth it. It's whether the cost investment of getting every single person to buy is worth it. Probably not for a business. So can you convert 100% of the audience? Yes. Is it worth it? No.
But do you actually want to convert everyone, or are you looking for
totally
a certain caliber of people, right?
Now, if we had 100% of qualified people who got on the call, so if we segmented the traffic for that, then within that qualified pool.
Daniel can do that. That would be great.
Yeah, Daniel, what are you doing?
That was the question.
And so you get what I'm pointing at here is that you said things on the podcast that actually influence people's buying decision, which you actually now have data to support that. Similar situation. Now, the other part of that is that if you were on someone else's podcast, right? Well, then their history reinforcement with that person, if someone comes on my podcast, my audience is going to trust them because I don't do it often. And so you like that alone might have been the reason. Like,
yeah, I swear that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, and that is also information that people use to make a decision. If Alex says this is a good idea, I don't need to listen to anything else. I'll buy. That's enough information for some people because of the history of all the information I've given them. So you piggyback on their reputation. So if you wanted to replicate it, it would be like, how do you go on 100 more podcasts and run the same play?
And retarget the people who visit that page with ads because they came from that podcast.
That's nice.
I think that was my favorite response of the day. That's nice.
I would just book up podcasts and retarget the people who hit the whatever page it was that they registered for the webinar on. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where and this is the second time that the same happened with me, you know?
Yeah. So it works on the podcast, you run ads, it doesn't work.
Immediately.
Yeah, then just do more of the thing that worked. See how you can get on 5 podcasts a week.
Such a hack. Like, people spent so much time and money to gather that attention, and they will present you as an expert for free, and you get to do a call to action at the end.
And if you want to be clever about it, which I would recommend, which is like not insulting the people whose audiences you're hopping on there. I would be either you have to make a very soft webinar, right? Or you include them in on it. So it's you basically do a rev share with them. So it's like, hey, we're getting your podcast. By the way, if anyone buys any of my stuff from your podcast, I'm happy to give you half or whatever you want. Because all of a sudden, guess what happens? If you do that podcast and that guy, if you sent that guy a check for 10 grand after the podcast, I'll bet you he would have you back. And so then you create a podcast circuit that you go on 2 times a year, 3 times a year. This is our real estate expert, Kevin, who's going to talk about, real estate stuff. And then you have like 20 of those that you get on 3 times a year. You do 60 podcasts. Each podcast does 40,000. It's like, great, there's 2.4 million. And it's very high margin.
That's what Mr. Beast did. As soon as he saw what happened with like Andrew Tate's rise with all the clips, he was like, I'll just book as many podcasts as possible. And then he went on a complete circuit. And then he was like, on the podcast, I'm doing this because people will go and clip all of my stuff and share me 10 times further than what I could even pay for, because people want to make money from it or build a brand or build an audience. So if you get people to do that, you can do it in the, you can actually just hire people to clip for you. Or if you have a big enough audience, people will just do it for you anyway. That's how a lot of people are going to make a lot of money with affiliates when it comes to Skool.
We did what you said. Like, we made our one of our podcast guys an affiliate link, and he made so much money from it that we sent him a text. And we're sending you $4,000. He's like, what? That's amazing. That's awesome. So now he wants us to do more. And that's exactly what you said.
Yeah, you become a regular. You become a regular guest. Just don't overdo it. Just do do a couple times a year. I wouldn't like beat the hell out of it.
What are your thoughts, because it's converting so well, about funding traffic to his, basically funding traffic to his, it was a YouTube podcast.
Yeah.
So it's like, hey man, we'll give you, marketing dollars.
I think it's a great idea. I mean, I would run it and then I would see what happens. I knew there was a gym mastermind years and years and years ago, like right at the beginning of podcasts. And they sold exclusively through their podcast, and they ran ads to the podcast where they did the sales. So they just basically did a podcast webinar funnel because, it's always like, how can I make this new and different rather than a webinar? But you still have captivated attention. And I do think that the stick rate on an audio podcast is probably significantly higher than a video webinar. Because like if you just look at podcast consumption overall, I've actually just been looking at my podcast metrics recently. But like, it's an absurd amount. It's like 80-90% of people who start the podcast make it all the way through. If you were to have those types of metrics on a YouTube video, it would be the most popular YouTube video of all time.
Kind of like those old school teleseminars, right?
It's exactly like teleseminars. Yeah, just literally the tech changed. That it's still you hearing someone talk. People haven't changed. Yeah, just the tech. Okay, so that was none of the things we just talked about. Okay, so sales team. Okay, so who had the sales team on? Shoot.
Yeah, we make a lot of sales from Salesforce, like 50-60%, and obviously we want to do
sales from sales calls. I like it.
Yeah, right. So we want to do more of that. There's only really like me and Dylan, and Dylan's not going to do them anymore, so we want a sales team now. So just honestly, just tips on how to find people, because all of us came from within the community. Yeah. Do we keep doing that because that works, or do we like look elsewhere? And then also how to like train those people and kind of just some tips basically on how to train sort of skill.
I think you can start with the community since that is already proven effective. They already believe in everything. I think that's probably a good first step. And then I would exhaust that. You have a pretty big community though, so you probably can find a good amount of people, and they're all like business interested. It's harder if you're like selling DIY moms to find stuff. But then again, there's plenty of them too who will just become savages. So that's probably where I would start. Not to say that's the eventuality, but it's a good place to start. In terms of onboarding, we typically do 2 weeks of game tape, which is basically like twice a day. They meet with the sales manager in the beginning, meet with them at the end. They review sales calls. We role play with them, and that's the majority of the onboarding. Then they get a half calendar because we don't want to waste leads. They get a half calendar, and they take those calls as long as they meet KPIs. Then we give them the full calendar. And anybody who goes below KPI drops the half calendar, basically goes back into re-onboarding essentially. And if they can't cut it again, then they're out. And so the same thing with the guys who are at half calendar. If they can't make it in 2 weeks of that, then that basically has given them 30 days. And like, we usually just call it.
For a pay structure, we're probably thinking that obviously the main thing we're going to do going forward is strictly annual. We're going to have the monthly as a downsell, obviously. We're thinking like 15% for a rep. Would you give them the same for the monthly? Because then it's just like, hey, if you want to make more money, then sell the annual. Or would you give them a little more for the monthly? Or
I work all of my OTE, so on target earnings, for any commission-based role based on what I think the skill level required to do this job well would need to make in order to take the job. And so, like, because I don't like the percentages, because let's say someone's selling $200,000 patios, right? It's like, am I not going to give him $30,000 in every patio? Like, of course not. So there's this issue in the info world where we assume that, like, oh, high ticket lures only do for 15% or 20%, but it doesn't take into account lead flow, lead quality, brand, product. It doesn't take anything into account. So it's just how hard is this particular sale? And then what level of person is needed? And what does that person need to make? And how many opportunities they're going to make, and what should I, what would their conversion rate expectation be? So if they're taking 10 calls a day, and I expect them to close 5 in order to be like a good rep or a proficient rep, and that'll depend on y'all's businesses. But let's say it's 5 out of 10. Well, if for me to get somebody to quit whatever they're doing and do this full time and be remote and make whatever, let's say it's $100,000 a year, then I'm like, okay, they'll work 5 days a week, they'll do 5 sales a day, that's 25 sales a week. Times 52 weeks, or maybe they took 2 weeks off, so times 50, and so that's what, 1,250. That's 1,250 sales a year. Okay, so if they make $100 a sale, then they're at $125,000 a year. Okay, so $100 a sale. What does that work out into? I don't even need to do percentages, because they'll just say, okay, well, you get $100 on this sale and you get 20 on this sale. You can make it a percentage if you want to, but like, you just do it. Expect, like, what do you expect them to do if they do a good job, and what is that? Yeah, I back into it. I don't do it front forward.
We're talking about sales growing. Maybe you can just help me think through this. So, like, the way that we've set it up is I do sell by chat, and I'm also the dude, and I want to grow, and that's
you do want to grow.
Do want to?
Okay. Well, I don't. Some people don't. That was a genuine question.
Yeah.
So you do want to grow.
Yeah.
And version 1 of giving somebody access to your chat and messaging that way, you don't want to do?
Like where they just do what I was doing and sell in the chat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I ran into, I guess, I've just done that for the last 30 days and have somebody in the role, and then yeah, it's not.
They weren't as good as you.
But they weren't using your account, were they?
They were in their own account. And yeah, but just wondering if that actually is the model that makes sense for scaling, or like growing a team, or, like the model that we have right now is a sell by chat, free community.
So you go free, DM, paid.
Yeah. Well,
okay. And are you DMing via Skool chat?
Okay. Cool. Free thing is that all of our sales from this last campaign were just from free Skool community. No ads, the regular ads to the free social player. No calls and no outside leads. Just free Skool community.
Backpack. Just got there. I mean, I'm a big fan of not breaking what's working and seeing if, like, the lowest risk move you can make is do more of what's working. And so it's like, what is the bottleneck of doing more of what's working, and is the risk of fixing that bottleneck greater than the risk of the unknown of changing the process and changing the person?
Yeah.
Because you'd be doing multiple changes there. You'd be changing the sales process, and you'd have another variable of basically a phone script, which is a different selling method, and a different person if somebody else was taking those calls. I would say, like, me, lowest risk. I have seen guys who've scaled chat like crazy, and so I don't think it's like you can't scale it. Like, a friend of mine has like 60 chat reps that just work as Instagram like DMs, so like you can scale it. But I'd say that sales teams on the phone are far more common than DM setters. Also, how many creators want to? I mean, there's reasons for that, but yeah, I'd make that bet first. In terms of training, the big thing that I genuinely feel this, because we're very good at building sales teams. I think the largest sales team we have right now is almost 100 guys just on one company, so like pretty decent at it. The big thing is understanding how training works, which is you need very low latency, so very fast feedback loops for when you're correcting someone's talking. So they'll have the script, and the first and most important objective of sales training is script adherence. Because if you can get everyone to say the script, then you know if the script works. If no one says the script, there's no point in having a script. Now, that goes all the way to, basically, there's nothing that happens on the sales call that they shouldn't already know how to answer. The order of the script will change post basically ask, because at that point they'll have to jump to the portions that they should have memorized in terms of, you know, I need to think about it, I need to talk to my spouse, I don't have the money right now, whatever it is. That part, but everything up to there should be almost the same by person. And when we train people, like we'll interrupt somebody the first time they do a script like 40 times, and we'll tell them that, like, hey, before you get going, we're going to interrupt you like crazy, and that means it's going well. And so they'll start the first line, and we'll be like, stop, say it like this, try it again. All right, say it again. All right, you nailed it. Do it another time. Great. Do it another time. Positive reinforcement. Again. Okay, great. Now keep going. Keep going, keep going. Stop. Try it like this. Tweak your tone here. Like, and so when we make a script, we also include it with a tone guide, which is basically how you bold, underline, italicize, caps the fonts so that they can know what each font means. And so it's like you hear one of your reps say something and you're like, ah, he said that wrong. Like that, they like, he didn't hit it right. That's because they weren't pausing at the right parts, or they speed up, or they made a question out of a statement because they get kind of like, I don't know, like they raise their voice and then they sound soft on the call. And so we just drill that not only are they saying the words, they're saying them the right way.
Are you developing that, or is the Silk Rexer guy or first step? Oh,
I mean, when it's you, yeah, you're doing it in the beginning. And so you codifying, like the best way to do this is you just look at the sales calls that you did that were really good, where you're like, man, I was on fire, which number one recommendation I can give to anybody who's selling still is record all your calls. And whenever you get on a hot streak, because everyone gets on one, right? You're like, dude, I'm on fucking fire today. Those are the best calls, because the tiny changes in your intonations, where you pause, where you ask for money, that's the best script. And so then take that as V1, and then that way you can always compare it back. And if you ever get in a cold streak, go back to listening to your all-time greatest hits. And I have all of our guys do this. It's like they should always have a library of like when they're on fire, what they should, like what they sound like. And that gets a lot of people out of slumps when they sometimes get into them.
I found in our team, like Keo is completely different, but he's never been trained on sales, so he close to the more laid back, authoritative, you know, he's not trying to convince
You mean Keytron?
Keytron.
Yeah.
Right. And
is it Keytron?
Yeah, Keo. Everyone here now knows as Keytron, yes.
So Keo, okay, sorry. So Keo, okay, got it, okay.
But the guys that we've recruited, they're more in the thread of where I'm from, like they actually know about all types of stuff. So I think we were just to hire out for someone who could develop our scripts or help us to help our team grow us daily.
Just look at you already have sales guys, right? I would look at those guys, Keo and everyone here. If you're the inspirational dude, I actually don't, so hear me out on this. I don't think he sells better than them. They already have more trust with him, and so he can be lazier with it. And so it's like, if I have a warm audience and I say, hey, go buy this, is that really effective persuasion? No. I just have already a huge history of reinforcement of the person, and so they're very likely to comply with the next request. If you're starting without that position, then you have to do the things that increase the likelihood that someone complies, which he's probably not doing because he hasn't had to. And so it is way faster if you already know the person's going to buy. So you buying or not? Are you buying or what? And they're like, sure. First question on the call. Cool. Let's end the call now. Here's the link. See you later. Right? Like that's not a sales script. that will work only if you're Keo. And so we need to make it work for anyone, especially people who aren't Keo.
So this tonality thing and knowing how to open a thing, how to dig deep, and whatever is necessary for that. So is this standard? Is this like straight line stuff, or are you modeling something specific?
So I made the closer framework as the easiest framework that I've taught, which is what fundamentally you're establishing a gap, right? You're just like, where are you now? Clarify whether they're C. Okay, why did you hop on the call? Why did you attend the webinar? Why did you click on my thing? Why did you respond, comment, whatever? Okay, cool. Label. So what I'm hearing is you're here and you want to go here. Got it. Oh, what's been the thing that's been getting in the way? Obstacle, right? So you're like, oh, you overview their past pain. So what have you tried so far? Why didn't that work? What else have you tried? Why didn't that work? And when we're doing that pain cycle, it's elevating it's extending the gap between where they are and where they want to go. And so the equal opposite of motivation is deprivation. So if I want somebody to be more motivated, I need to make them feel deprived. So it's like if I show lots of burgers and steaks or, behind me and you guys haven't eaten, me showing it will increase your deprivation around that thing. And so then you get hungrier, right? If you haven't slept in a while, you're very motivated to sleep. But since money and goals aren't physiological, we have to do that mentally or psychologically by describing the pain that they're going through right now by not having the goal as much as what life might be like once they do, which is then S, which is sell the vacation, which is what would it look like when you do have this. I think you might be a good fit for this. Can I tell you about it? 3-pillar pitch. There's thing 1, thing 2, thing 3 that you need to succeed. Each one of those has a metaphor that they can understand immediately without getting into any of the specifics. Does that make sense? Great. Let's get you rocking and rolling. No. E, explain away the concerns. What's your main concern? What are you most afraid of having happen? What would make this a yes? What would make this a no? Right? And you start walking through basically closing.
Based on what you just basically know about us so far, would you say we should get into standardizing that?
No, you can go outbound because you have so much volume and you're doing 4-minute calls. It can be a very, your call is already probably very transactional. If it's 4-minute average calls, you're asking 4 questions. I mean, I felt like you probably aren't asking very much. And so that should be extremely easy to standardize.
Standardize something now and then see how you can see.
Does that make sense, huh? Yeah. Sweet.
The question, I don't want to take away from the sales, but do you have the same
children?
No. No, we'll get that for that later. No, there's the level of scripts that you use for sales. Do you have a similar level and some sophistication of that for delivery?
100%.
Okay. Okay, cool.
If it's client facing, it should be scripted.
Okay. Just for that. Thank you.
You're having you're having the same conversation. What makes one rep good? What makes one rep bad? They have a framework they follow. They ask the same questions. They answer the same way.
Okay.
In terms of managing reps, what does that look like?
Say it again.
In terms of managing reps, so day to day,
Yeah.
Sales management.
Yeah.
What does that look like? Standard calls, role play calls in the morning, support.
Yeah. So we do a daily huddle. So there's 3 components that we do on a regular basis for sales teams. One is a weekly huddle, which is basically kudos, who did the best job this week, who did a great job on show up rates, because that's a huge thing that I think people wildly under talk about is who actually worked their leads really well. So we give kudos both on close rate and show rate. Then the sales manager will bring up any specific problem that he's seeing everyone dealing with and then role play around that specific thing for everyone. And we'll watch game tape, right? So I said that out of order, but it's kudos, show up rate, close rate, game tape around the specific thing that we want them to improve on, and then we role play back and forth. That's the weekly. On a daily basis, it's like that, but shorter, and it's just a quick huddle. It's getting everyone oriented, and then 30 minutes is fine. And then we like to read testimonials, 1 or 2 a day from the week before. So it's hey, John, remember that lady who, you had to arm wrestle for an hour to get to buy? Well, she just bought her first house, or she just whatever the thing is. Because then it reminds the sales guys why they do this. Because sales is a tough job. It's very repetitive, and you have to keep your motivation high. And so reminding them why they do it is important. The third element is the individual coaching, which is the individual feedback. That's done basically in an inverse frequency to the skill of the rep. So basically, the better the rep gets, the higher their close rates, how much above KPI they are, the more of a leash they get, the more slack they get. If they're newer or they're not doing as well, then they get into more frequent cadences of communication with the manager. And then the manager has the salesperson send them the calls they're struggling with, hey, I should have closed this one. And I personally prefer to have them not send their train wrecks unless they're curious about it, and have let's talk about the ones on the fence and what we could have done to improve that. And when you're giving the feedback to the reps, it's you'll see 20 things and you'll want to throw up at how bad the call is, but you just have to pick one thing, the biggest thing that'll make the biggest difference in their sales, and you have to just drill that until they get it. And so if it takes a week or 2 weeks for them to you need to establish rapport faster, you need to maintain the frame, you lost the frame right here, do you see where you lost it? Okay, let's role play that. And it's here we go. And then you go into it. And so role playing is basically the only way that I've effectively seen people change behavior besides modeling, which is when you watch someone else do something well. So it's you watch someone do it well and then you do it well yourself. And so we follow the 3Ds of document, demonstrate, duplicate, which is first we have the process, we've documented it. and that can either be a recording or a script or both. Demonstrate. I show you how it sounds, which also is done via recording and live, and then duplicate. Now you do it in front of me. And that's basically the process that we try and use to transfer like a basic skill from one person to the other.
This might be a dumb question, but like, when do you know it's time for them to just go?
Yeah, for us, if someone's below KPI for 14 days.
14 days.
Do you do projections for a sales team?
What do you mean?
So for example, like at the start of the week, each salesperson says like, I project for this week 5 deals.
No, I don't. I think the only reason that is the projection stuff is helpful is if you are like in very long enterprise sales where it's like, what's your pipeline volume? It's like, I've got 3 more calls here. I think maybe a couple of these guys will fall through, but fundamentally, like what value does it serve for them to guess?
Yeah, well, it's helpful for marketing if they need more of those leads.
So sales utilization we track, but that's not a, basically I don't care what they think they're going to close. I care about schedule availability. How many slots do we have? And then how does that relate to ad spend so that we can fill the slots up? And so for us, I'm actually pulling this data right now to have like a really master metric I'm going to share on this. But my preference is not that sales teams are fully utilized. So full utilization would be that you have every call slot of the day that's booked in. That'd be like 100% utilization. I prefer like 80-ish%. Because then you've got that little bit of extra time to squeeze the pipeline, make sure you get that follow-up in. And I've seen that the overall lead conversion is higher if the sales guys' calendars are a little bit empty. Now, too empty, and then they lose momentum. They get to like commission breath because they're too desperate to close deals, and that's not good. But like 80%, they stay in momentum, they take calls, they get hot, and they have enough time to do some of the follow-up they know they should be doing.
Awesome. And the framework that you just explained for managing the sales rep, do you use similar framework for managing the delivery team?
Same. I would use the same exact setup. Yeah. It's training people. Sales just happens to be one that I think if you have a department where many people do the same function, sales, in my opinion, is one of the most researched departments for performance management out of everything in an organization because the feedback loop is so tight. So we know what works in sales. And so I still think you can take the exact same processes there and apply them to any department. It's just you have to be more creative in terms of how you apply it, but the fundamentals are there.
Great. Just real quick to just revert back to the 14-day. How do you know? Like, say you have like an A player who's just hot,
Yeah.
and he goes under KPIs for 14 days. I mean, do you still kind of like give him some slack because you're like, I know what you're capable of, but yeah.
No, it's a good question. If someone has if someone you sold for 5 years and was a top closer for 5 years and then has 14 days, think about it like a long-term relationship. If you're on your first or second date and this girl just is a fucking train wreck, you're like, my God, like I'm good, right? But if you were in a relationship with them for 3 years and they had a bad week, you're like, all right, like I have a long history of like you not being this way, so I'm willing to extend my normal grace period.
Because
yeah. No, but I'm being real. Like that, like fundamentally, that's what it is. Like they have a shorter leash because they haven't proven anything. That guy, and I would have this discussion straight up because the nice thing is that when you have a guy who has closed, then all we have to do is see what changed. And so that's why having your hot streaks, we're like, dude, let's play this side by side. You have their best closes and what's happening right now. And you're like, play. And then it's like, hey, Mrs. And then you're like, pause, play the hitter. It's like, hey, welcome to the call. Let's get you going. Blah, 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 blah. Right. And so you're like, dude, your energy is totally different here. Right. You notice the difference. So like they'll notice it. And so when we do game tape on the weekly, if you pull someone's up, what you don't want to do is have everyone tell the person what they did wrong because they will hate it. This is how I started. And it was like, no one wanted their calls to get taken up because they would just get destroyed. And so what we flipped it to, and we've stuck with this, is the guy whose call it is will point out all the things they could have done better. That person, it's my call. I'm like, I missed that there. I should have done this, right?
You bring up something if they don't notice it.
Not even. Usually there's enough, like more times than not, people need it. And in a one-to-many setting, I wouldn't do it. One-on-one, that's where the one-on-one comes in. But then, this is the good part, is that you have the rest of the team say what they did well. And that way they get some praise from it. Otherwise, they'll just hate those calls.
Yeah. Can we touch on KPIs a little? Just on...
So it's going to be basically click to close, everything that they control. So it's going to be speed to contact, depending on, like, this depends on how y'all do sales, but you have speed to contact, you have contact rate, then you have, if you have people who are showing up, then you have a schedule rate, then you have a show up rate. Then of show up rate, you have offer percentage. So that's qualified leads if you have different levels or tiers of leads. From offer percentage, you have closing percentage and cash collected. And so that'll give you, and like if you want to go downstream, you can also have refund rate, chargeback rate by rep. And then that, like, this is actually a 201 advanced hack, but a lot of times, especially in the high ticket world, some of you guys have like chargeback issues and things like that. If you trace it back to the rep, almost always, like if your chargeback rate goes crazy, it's one guy changed how he was selling. Often it's been unusual in my experience.
Over promising?
Yeah, they sell hot. Yeah, they overpromise.
Okay.
Do you have any suggestions?
You're gonna make so much money. Like no, but they do it because people want to hear it. Yeah,
We were just like $60.
yeah, it's warm. Yeah, it's warm and the ticket price is low. Typically at that rate, we raise it. If you close 2 out of 3, you can probably raise the price by like double.
Well, then we did our group onboarding as well. So instead of doing 1-on-1, we did like 1 to 5, and the close rate obviously dropped, but then it's going to like 5. So do you have any thoughts on that? Like,
I'm fine with leverage selling.
Just a numbers game, but that point there.
When you're doing one-to-many, you can also create a little bit of like a mini live VSL, like a little, like a small person webinar kind of. Yeah, and that can create a little more consistency. And I mean, when you have a deck like that, then the variations between rep gets smaller and smaller because the words are literally the same. And so then it's actually just the delivery of the slides.
I think an interesting way to think about it too with what we were talking about before with historic high performers in sales or delivery that have a drop off. I like the professional athlete model where he has like a gold score that they're amazing. They've been the top scorer MC forever. You can drill skill and stuff like that, which is great, but what they always bring in a mindset person. So it's usually a belief shift or identity shift that gets them back into that group.
When you're hiring salespeople, you need, for example, like closers, do you start most of them as lower level positions like just phone sales and you build them up, or you hire directly for closers, or you're starting them as BDRs?
It honestly depends. I'd love to give like this is the only way to do it every time. It's like if I recruit the top rep at a cloned competitor who's selling a very similar product, that guy's is typically not going to start on the cold call floor. If I have a reputation of attracting the best salespeople and I say all salespeople, no matter what, because that's the culture that I want to have, then all salespeople start setting. And so like for acquisition.com, for example, like we start people setting. Doesn't matter where you come from. But like, that's because I want a culture of like, no one is above the system. And that's because that's how I like to run things.
Yeah. And when you're starting,
but they can, if they crush it, which they should, then in a week, I'm like, dude, you're outperforming the top setters by 3x. Like, yeah, let's get you in. And then, but that also gets them also a little bit of, I mean, you don't really have setting per se, but it also gives you, they get to meet the prospect in a lower stress setting. And so they get a little bit like, it kind of like gets their feet wet before they dive in. And that's worked very well.
Are you guys like closing live on Zoom, or are you using like a PowerPoint? Or?
It depends on the company. I mean, we've got, literally we sell everything from insurance to software to, literally everything.
Yeah. Cause like years ago we were selling very complex life insurance.
Yeah. You sell via Excel sheet.
What we did was we saw the rep, speaking live, and they saw them. And then what we realized was we can actually create scripts and then adjust PowerPoints. So where literally a newbie could come in, read a script because they're not seeing them, and use the ums, pauses, and then hit buttons, and then basically move the arrows on there. And the closing rates for like new people skyrocketed.
But yeah, via Medium, I'm not really. I've sold everything. Like I've sold via phone call, I've sold via Zoom, I've sold in person. Like I just do whatever one's more efficient for whatever acquisition system we have.
Alex, how are you thinking through deciding between you're incentivizing the sales director, partner person who may or may not bring their own reps, who keeps them from
sales director where's the partner part?
Oh, because when you incentivize them, they get a percentage, 5% partner.
Like an override?
They bring an override?
Like a rev share?
Yeah, like a rev share. Like they're the sales manager, right?
And if I choose to give them a rev share.
If that's the way you incentivize.
Okay.
And say they may or may not bring their own reps because they have like a closer admin thing, right? versus you just hire a sales manager who has, you know, old guys in experience.
I mean, if those are the two people I was choosing between, I'd for sure take the other guy, not the old guy. You're like, here's this old guy who's like out of the game, like doesn't know any other salespeople, versus like this guy who actively trains salespeople every day and has a huge Rolodex. Like, I would probably take this guy.
Doesn't that, you're not afraid really with leverage that they get and kind of owning your sales process almost, anytime, all the rest of the time.
That's a culture thing. It's never happened in any company I've ever had. So I don't know. I've also never had sales reps have huge leverage over me because I'm like, are you going to tell me that I don't know how to build a sales team?
Right.
What are you saying? You know what I mean? Like if someone were like threatening, it's like Elon was threatening me with money, threatening me with sales. Like I'll go get more. Like, what are we talking about? So no, I think where those guys get leverage is when they have a founder who has no idea how sales work, and then they would just be lost without them. But I mean, that's just like entrepreneurship in general. Like if you have a developer who, you know, knows everything about software and you don't know anything, they're like, I will stop developing and I'll take the whole team. It's like, but if the whole team is loyal to that person, not you, it's like, what other issues are happening, you know? So.
How are you incentivizing their tops performing sales managers?
It honestly depends on the portfolio company and what they sell. So like we sell things from insurance to software to like weight loss.
Where we work in the info space.
Okay. How do we incentivize the sales rep?
The managers.
Oh, the managers? I think they get they typically get an override and a base. Oh. And the thing is like overrides don't have to be percentages. Like you can just say like if we hit over this amount of sales, you get this bonus. If you get over this amount of sales, you can get this bonus. So it doesn't have to be percent. I prefer to get away from percentages because people think in pies and I don't like that. I'd rather just be like, hey, if the reps close above 30%, you get an extra $5,000 a month. If they close over 35, you get $10,000 a month extra. If you get, you know, I mean, like I like to stair step it so that jackpots get increasingly higher at incremental returns. It's like second place gets a pair of steak knives, third place you're fired or whatever. For the manager to be overall. Yeah, for the whole team. Because the sales director has to look at revenue per lead. Right, because that's really what they're responsible for. Like marketing is generating the leads, and then their responsibility is to maximize dollars per lead.
And do they get into the conversation of do the feedback on how that should be changed? Like these leads from Canada aren't as good.
Yeah, so this is one thing that I've done. I think that's a little bit different than the majority of people in the space, but marketing and sales have been very closely tied together in every business I have, and I just really call it acquisition. And so and I walk through the same thing, which is like people just need a certain amount of information to buy. And so this way, it's not like these two sides are against each other. It's just they're working together to try and figure out how we close the most deals.
How do you know if it's a marketing or a sales problem? Right. What metrics do you look at?
So the reason we have offer percentage is that we'll know that if offer percentage drops, then it's a lead quality issue. That's like an early indicator for that. And typically it's like if you have an explosion in lead volumes, sometimes it's like we've removed a step in the funnel or we made a new offer on the front end, and those things typically will wildly change what the quality per lead is. And then you have to let things shake out though, because let's say lead cost drops by 80%. If the lead quality goes down, okay, by how much? Like instead of closing 1 out of 2, we close 1 out of 3, but we cut our lead cost by 80%. Let's do it. The sales guys will be less happy. And so then we say, okay, how can we increase friction so that we can still increase our sales utilization so that they're happy as well? And that's just like that's the back and forth.
Do you leave that up to the rep, the offer, just like if they decide to make the offer or not?
It's objective. Yeah, so it's objective. So basically so for someone to be a customer, it's like you need to be as objective, like it has to be yes, no. Do they have a credit score above this? Do they have a credit problem or what, like, do they have a gym? Do they have a lease? Do they have at least one employee? Yes, they're qualified.
And they should be made an offer.
Right. Exactly. It also works the same way with downsells. So I think a lot of you guys have, like a core offer and sometimes you guys have a downsell of some sort. My biggest way because like if you've ever done this and you introduce a downsell because you're like, oh, let's just sell that to the people who are unqualified. Then all of a sudden everybody's getting downsold and no one's buying the main thing because sales guys prefer to get said yes to than make money. For real? Because it's fast feedback loop. You hear yes immediately, money comes later. And so what we do to prevent that is if the lead is qualified, you cannot sell them the downsell. If someone is unqualified and you're on the phone with them and you're like, well, shit, I've got this 30-minute slot, then they are qualified for the downsell. And that way it's like the guys have to go for the sale and not pussy out.
Is it also the rep's fault or the setter's fault if the show-up rate is
Show up rate's on the sales rep.
sales rep?
I prefer to do it that way.
Yeah.
I like it on the rep. Again, it depends on the process, but if I like the sales reps owning that, because the thing is a lot of sales happens the whole time. And so being able to control as much of that conversation as possible, I think is helpful. In a perfect world, a salesperson would just stay on the phone and then just like literally close nonstop. But the world isn't perfect, and that's often not reality.
Could you elaborate on that about the show up rate?
So if I'm working a brick and mortar business, I probably won't have the salesman working leads. I would probably have somebody who's specifically a lead nurturer who all they do is work brick and mortar leads. If the person's already been qualified and saw a webinar and they're getting handed off, like they've got self-scheduled, the rep's going to work his own schedule.
So the rep could do like follow-ups before the call, get in the show.
Yeah. And that's why we do kudos on show up rate. Because what's really interesting is you can increase it's so much easier to increase show up rate for a team by like 20 or 30% than it is to increase close rate for a team by 20 and 30%. You can take a show up rate that's 50% and make it 80. You can for sure do it. Taking a close rate from 50 to 80, really fucking hard. But the thing is that they mean the same thing to revenue. And so I think it's one of the most underappreciated and underutilized parts of making money is because lead nurture is not sexy, but it's super valuable. Because if you do follow up with people more, they tend to buy more.
How do you know they're transitioning from the folks call thing versus just the guy calling you and get you something?
Well, for you guys, you don't even have lead nurture. Like lead nurture is really just gonna be the marketing, whatever automated information you're sending them to increase the likelihood they buy, and then your guys are just calling outbound. So yours is very simple. You just need a really good dialer so that you maximize talk time.
Right.
We talked about sales. Anyone have any questions? I could talk about sales literally for like 2 more days. So we good on sales? We can do more. I don't care. It's up to you guys. Okay.
Team incentives, we not covered it more, right?
Yeah.
I think we have one more question about sales actually.
Okay.
And now it's not much of it. It's for the 7-day free trial, right?
Yeah.
So we were considering if we should do onboardings after they started the free trial.
Mm-hmm.
We're curious about your thoughts on that.
Versus before?
Yeah, because like the conversion number just be getting them to start a free trial, which doesn't really have that many. It's just kind of.
Well, I mean, I think it could be a really, really powerful thing if you get 3 times as many people to take trials and then you just basically make the onboarding the call to action to start. That's probably going to make you more money.
Okay. You got one on the inside, so like the 6th, 7th.
The second onboarding or something. So fundamentally, like the more you talk to them, in theory, yes, there's just cost associated. Like there's headcount and resource allocation. So that's the trade-off. Is like there's 100 things we could do to grow the business. It's just, is it the best thing to do?
Is there a way to move them out of the trial? Like, is there a way to say just pay now after they've done the trial? That's how I want affiliates. Is I just got everyone to claim their URL and move them out of the 14-day Skool trial and.
Like you could start free
There
trial at
isn't,
like day
but
4.
I mean, we can add one.
Yeah, because
You're the
if they
first
could do the
person
free
that's
trial,
asked.
then jump on a call, and then you just go, well, let's get that commitment from you, like right now. Why wait for the trial?
That'd be. They have this photos.
Yeah.
They like upgrade from the trial at day 4.
Pardon? Huh?
You did the test. I thought you didn't want to do free trial.
No, this was for affiliate. So everyone started their community, and then I just got them to claim the URL. So you'd be on the trial for like, what, a day, 2 days? And then they'd get the URL. You can move out of the 14-day trial. So it's a great incentive to do that. And it works really well with Skool communities because everyone wants a nice URL because they're all available.
Yeah, if they could upgrade on like day 4 or 7 and start paying, that'd be sick.
Exactly. Which is an incentive. And you guys just back it with like, I don't know, some extra magnet or something. Yeah.
Not a feature.
But if you
It's
get off the
not,
call, they
but,
still
I mean,
have
it
3
could
days
be.
left to make a decision, and I don't like that. It's like
129. So you go. 129 a month.
150. Yeah.
Well, yeah, sure. I'll take it. That's
Oh, 150? All right. 150.
He's like, I see it. 200.
if you're gonna pay that extra difference, he spends on memes.
Each file the feature.
So I think button repush, that's where I'm thinking about a trial.
What's that?
If that big button with reps push, then I'll understand.
Oh, that would get abused.
Yeah. Yeah, like the customer has to choose to buy voluntarily.
Dude, there was a button in there where like an admin could uncancel someone's cancel. We thought it might be useful for support or something, and it got abused hard. So we quickly removed it.
You didn't even have a warning. I tested it in GIF, and I was like, uncancel your canceling, and it just went straight through. I was like, what? I don't even get to choose. Are you sure you want to do this? He just went back to a paying member straight away. That's crazy.
No, because if you think about it, when you're in the cancelling state, you're still paying. You just haven't reached the end of your cycle yet. So it's scheduled it. So cancelling a schedule of an action is not as extreme as actually cancelling it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But it just means they'll just renew. So you just wait till the last day, then just...
And plus, it's better for you guys. There should be more friction to cancel than uncancel, right?
While we're on sales, just a question helping me see what I can't see, going from like 100K amount to $100 million and structuring a sales team. What are some things I might look out for or be aware of?
Yeah, if you're going from 100 to 500, you'll probably need reps that are taking calls. Yeah. Just being honest. Like, I mean, there's some guys in there who do, but like, there's so few compared to how many guys have phone teams. But what should you be aware of?
With a 20 to 30K offer that can go up. But yeah.
A 3-group offer, like a bundle of 3 groups at once.
Talent could do it. But yeah, just like in terms of team structure, anything that I just can't see, something that you might want to be aware of this is I think I am going to go to a call.
Don't promote your best sales guy to manager. That's a common one.
Yeah.
You just like getting good at building a big sales team comes down to recruiting and training. That's everything. Is like knowing where to find good reps and knowing how to make mediocre reps into great reps. And a lot of guys have the desire, they just don't have the skill. And what's tough is like, this is just like a human thing, which is people aren't very good at teaching stuff. And so they say amorphous, they'll just be like, just be more charismatic. It's like, that means nothing to anyone. And so it's like, you have to break it down into things that they can control. So it's like, I need you to smile when you start the call. Like when you start, like, I need you to raise your voice here. Like you have to tell them what to do that then people describe as charismatic, not just because they want to be charismatic and they don't know how. So we have to break things down further. So basically the less skilled someone is in any domain, the more broken down the actions have to be. That's just across anything.
Or get them to think about the difference between the highest paid actors and the ones that are never making it. It's the way they're utilizing the script.
One call, 2 call.
I mean, everything's at how much information they need to make a decision. Yeah. One of my favorite sales processes that I've used for a very long time is just set VSL close. I like it a lot. VSL, video sales letter.
You put application in front of the VSL application.
Yeah, well, usually schedulers, you can add, qualifications inside the scheduler, and then the sales guys can look at their own calendar. Because I like sales guys managing their own calendar so they can clear people who are disqualified right off the bat, and then it opens up more availability, more people can book in, and then that way they talk to the most amount of qualified people, and then they still set to double check, and then they VSL close. I just like that process because no VSL up front, you get significantly more traffic. It's probably been the highest throughput method. Like you could just go VSL straight to a one call. I just like call VSL because then it's like, it is the second call. They feel like it's the second call. The first call is low pressure. We actually can screen. We can have a hard takeaway angle because we're not asking for money. There's a lot of things that I like about 2 call closes.
In terms of top closers.
And 1 call closes into becoming 2 call closes half the fucking time like this.
In terms of top closer to the sales manager, that's basically. But
say it again?
In terms of top closer to like sales manager, that's what we're trying to do. Like,
yeah.
Do you have any tips on what I should do if I can learn that skill?
It's just that traditionally the absolute best salespeople tend to be like psychopaths and just don't care about anyone besides getting credit cards. And so they tend to not be as good. I mean, one of the top rep that I have from Gym Launch, I pulled into acquisition.com and he's the sales director for all of our stuff. So, but he's also like my child and I have raised him like my own kid. And so, right? And so I drilled it. I was like, you need to become a different person now. You need to change all of your behaviors. What winning looks like is completely different now. And so like, you need to train these guys. Like that is how you win. But many closers, especially like career closers, like they just want to close. And so they think that the promotion is a career advancement, but it's like, you just have to understand that you're going to make less as a sales manager than you do as a closer. Like top closers almost always make more than the manager. Because being real, closing at that percentage is a harder and rarer skill.
So when they set and they asking questions, those questions enter upon their calendar that rep opens and you can see what the responses were. You're saying there's someone else who will confirm the call or the closers confirm the chat?
Again, it depends. Like you're talking about amorphous. Like it just depends on the process.
Have you seen an AI fay go in their call and confirm that?
I haven't seen AI calls be good yet. I've been waiting for this. I think it'll probably be into Q1 because I think voice to voice is coming out. You might know this better than me, but like voice to voice for AI. So right now, like AI calls is human says something, satellite goes, transcribes it, and then it responds in text, turns it into voice, goes to satellite, comes back. And so the problem is latency, not that the AI doesn't know what to say. It's just that it's too long.
The best thing I've seen so far, it's not for sales, it's for scammers. No, it's genius. It's by this telecommunications company called O2. If you Google O2 like scam AI, like they have a video of this. They've got this old woman. It's so genius. What they do is once they identify the scammers' phone numbers, no matter who they dial, they just connect them to these elderly women that are AIs that just waste their time. They're like, oh yeah, tell me more about that. Like, it's honestly genius, and they waste so much time because they realize that all you need to do is just keep them occupied. And with these people, and you can see how good it can get because it's almost funny. Because in one of the videos, the old lady keeps saying, okay, dear. And then the guy's like, don't call me dear. And then she goes, got it, dear. It's actually pretty good. Like, you got to watch it. But that's what you could do. That's at the forefront of that technology. So soon enough, that will be in sales.
Yeah. I think it's like 6 months. Because I have a couple of, I probably every month get models sent to me that are like, this is our current model, call it. And so I talk to them on a regular basis. The issues where they have is the lag, number one, and then also interrupting. So it's like, if you say something, they begin to answer, and then you say like, actually, it like, they're like, ugh, and then just like, it freaks out. So that's the issue right now, but it will get solved. And then at that point, I think setting will get taken care of first, and then shortly thereafter, sales will disappear. Yeah. I think it also depends on the price tag. You know, if you're selling more expensive stuff, it'll be longer before it. But I think eventually it won't be needed.
So what time frame are we thinking?
I don't. I'm just saying. I think voice to voice is the next big thing that will come out in AI, and I think it's slated to come out in the next
I
quarter.
also think people will become more skeptical as it becomes more public knowledge, and that even when a real person talks to them, oh, you're AI. People still think I'm AI in my head. It's like
You're not.
no, but it's like now the skepticism of everything. I mean, it always goes both ways.
And then your AI talks to their AI, and then it makes the decision, and then whatever. Yeah. But there's going to be a period of time there for a while where like we're just going to make an absolute murdering. To me, right? Yeah, both. There's like we're about to go into like just such a crazy opportunity period. This is gonna be like a wealth warp. It'll be fun.
Do you think they'll have to disclose that it's AI? Because I don't know if you saw there was the lawsuit against very different industry OnlyFans. Not quite different actually, just slightly different thing you're selling. But there's a lawsuit with them where a lot of dudes sued OnlyFans because obviously it's not actually the girl that's talking to them, and there was no disclosure about that. Do you think that will have to be some sort of like disclosure?
I don't know how
do they have to disclose it now?
They basically OnlyFans have when you sign up, like you may or may not be talking to the real person. Essentially, just like so they verify that they know this because they had to implement that. I think they settled the suit and then implemented that.
I think that'll be the case.
Yeah, because obviously, like it's like almost like mis-selling, right? Like that you're thinking you're talking to a human.
Well, that's different. That's the product.
Yeah, sure. I suppose.
So you just got this like fat, sweaty guy in his mom's basement. He's like, "Yeah, tell me more about that." And the other guy's like, "I think she likes me." It's like, "Tip me, I'll tell you more."
Tends to be a lot of Filipino VAs on it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I didn't want to create discrimination there.
Could you example the wealth warp messages?
No, just that like AI is going to create a lot of leverage, and so where there was huge cost bases before and drops and basically delays in operational drag, it's like tomorrow you could spin up 1,000 sales reps and run lead gen and have 1,000 sales reps call every single person who opted in and then sell them something that's digital, which would then also cost nothing, and one guy can do that
before people realize it's AI.
Yeah, there's going to be a window, just like everything. Yeah.
You can just disclose at the beginning of the call too.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually me as big of a deal. Like I think if Hormozi AI called somebody who bought a book, it was like, "Hey, it's me. This is my AI though, so it's not actually me." But I did train this thing on like a gazillion hours, and just want to make sure that you get the most out of this book. I think people were like, "This is fucking cool," until it's not cool, and then we'll move. We'll change it. Okay, sales. Good. Okay.